Welcome back to yet another Mario Tennis Fever tier list. With the latest 1.1 update for Mario Tennis Fever dropping a slew of balance changes, both characters and mechanics wise, it's time once again to give my early patch impressions. As always, I'm not ranking characters within tiers given how little time we've had with the patch, but I think I've played enough to get a general idea. Subscribe, please! Much like the patch before, the most important change is a mechanical one, this time concerning how characters interact with star flats. The super duper fast purple shot, which sounds like a cannon firing. They've simultaneously made it easier to get pulled into position for the star flat when a star is on the ground, and you can no longer overhead smash the ball if there isn't a star on the ground. Charged lobs, which never produce these stars on the ground, get a pretty nice buff in the form of now being safer to go for in neutral. Some lunge returns are also now harder to punish thanks to this change. And sometimes, the improved pull is a little too strong, denying your character the opportunity to go for a single tap flat unless you position awkwardly. Questionable, but you gotta roll with the punches. And characters that like or don't care about these changes benefit pretty nicely. Character-wise, this patch had a lot more meaningful content than last. Not only am I having to weigh a new stage and how certain characters will like it, but characters got impactful buffs and nerfs that have shaken up the tier list since I last made one. Mostly. The sole top tier spot no longer belongs to Donkey Kong alone, but instead gets shared by a bevy of familiar characters. Bowser, Wiggler, Boom Boom, Koopa, DK, and Petey are your big six this patch. Wiggler and Boom Boom are defensives doing their own thing. Speed and power, as you might expect. Bowser might be new king of the game in the wake of a DK nerf that's crippled his movement. Though DK's everything else remains quite impressive. Petey makes a return by virtue of things around him getting worse, and Koopa, well, let's talk about Koopa. Koopa might be the single biggest beneficiary of the star flat changes. As a character that hates receiving star flats, charged lobs are looking to be his best friend, since they no longer let characters star flat. With lobs naturally placing characters at the back of the court where there's less options, Koopa threatens a meta where big boys are being shot in the knees patch by patch but still remain good enough to be top tier. Now that their windows to star flat the turtle have been reduced, Koopa has the chance to turn the tables on his former bullies by lob drop comboing their slow asses into oblivion. I'm not going to claim he's the best, but he's definitely in contention if theory holds true. I didn't feel the need to make an A+ tier this time around, as I think the game is in a rather volatile state in terms of demonstrating what characters can do. The top tiers are still mostly unassailable by tiers lower than them, and for the most part we don't really have data as to how A tier and below do into themselves. Of note, A tier does have an A+ dropout by the name of Blooper. Blooper can still surprise opponents with sky-high curving slices, but some of his angling power got nerfed, so you're not getting surprised in neutral as much. Blooper is still one of the game's best lunge punishers, and still has plenty of tricks to force a lunge, but it's not as much of a guessing game as it used to be. With the meta as big character heavy as it is, Blooper struggles to put a dent in their defenses. A tier also consists of familiar names in Mario, Spike, and Luma, who all do the same thing I described last time. And I decided to bump Goomba up as a character that likes the star flat changes if only because his defense gets bolstered all the more. The Bees, on the other hand, is still divided with half of its roster in B+ tier and the other half in regular old B. B+ is where the other A+ dropout resides, Rosalina. As the character that got nerfed the most, Rosa's movement is slower, her angle's not as sharp, and her drop shot's bouncier. And yes, that's a nerf. The last thing you want is your drop shot to bounce. These nerfs, along with the last round of nerfs, are adding up, and now Rosa feels rather mid. There's at least one thing keeping her afloat, that being the charge lob change, so that at least she can lob more? Which I think goes against the point of the nerfs, but I digress. Rapid fire round. Baby Mario, Baby Waluigi, Daisy, and Para make their returns, but we have brand new faces including Bowser Jr., who has improved angles, and Piranha Plant, which might be able to function as more than just a specific counterpick on a specific court, praised stably. We also have a former F tier. Ladies and gentlemen, give a warm round of applause for our favorite cold, dead skeleton, Dry Bones. He's got improved speed, he's got real range, and his curving drop shots will leave the audience corpsing with laughter as his opponents stumble over themselves trying to catch it. Bit aside, I'm happy to report Dry Bones got the biggest glow up this patch, and feels like he can do more than just serve each point. Speaking of finally being added to the game, our first B tier character is Nabbit. His backhands no longer lose him the game on the spot. They're still an obvious thing to target, but with just a little bit of charge, Nabbit can fight out of a losing position now. His backhand topspins have some pretty wild arcs to them, and can threaten to overhead if you're not careful. Most importantly, his single tap flat volleys with backhands can legitimately threaten if he's close enough to the net. So he's got real pressure now. I'll have to see if my prediction pans out, but I think with both optimization and optimism, Nabbit can move up. Diddy also catches up to his fellow B-tier Speedies, thanks to his newly improved offense. Diddy's big problem pre-patch was lack of firepower, making it easy to defend against him, but now his volleys have some peanut pop to them. With a newly buffed Pauline and Toad, the ever-solid Yoshi, and honorary Speedy Birdo, B-tier is definitively Speedy Central. The only outlier here is Dry Bowser, the beneficiary of a forehand buff in a similar vein to Nabbit's backhand buff. While nice to balance out that particular weakness, Drowser still has a tough time recovering if his opponent gets him out of center court with a well-placed angle, and his own lack of angle can set them up perfectly. The C tier consists of the Luigis, Baby Peach, and Baby Wario. The Luigis both got height buffs, which is a nice indirect way to buff their volley games as volley power depends on the height of the ball in the air. Functionally, it doesn't help too much in the way of patching up their slippery movement and otherwise low shot power. And with so many other characters moving up in the world, I've actually slotted them lower than last time despite the buff. Baby Peach can play the game for longer than a single rally now, much like Dry Bones, but she doesn't have a plan of attack, unlike Dry Bones with his drop. Bones can also pressure in neutral with slice and flat volleys and passable topspins, but Baby Peach is considerably weaker in those areas, and moves as fast as an actual toddler would. Still, as a technical character, she'll manage to trip you up from time to time with her angled shots. Baby Wario remains the most high-risk to low-reward ratio of the all-or-nothing topspin group, of which I'm placing Luma and Piranha Plant in. While yes, it's true Baby Wario has the better lunge of the three, that doesn't matter when his quick charge topspin gimmick is completely outclassed by Luma's Jingle and Plant's Moonball Bounce. And with no buffs to either Wario this patch, I'm left feeling a little sad. And it gets worse, knowing I have to put Wario in D tier again. I went over it last time, so I won't dolt on it again, but horrible defensive properties are really holding the Garlic Man back. Defensive properties, which Waluigi could really use. With how shot speed and slides work in this game, Waluigi's own fast flats are his undoing. If his opponent catches his flat with a slide, he has no time to reposition for a follow-up because he's too slow. So he's the one that gets scored on. And with everyone around him getting better, Waluigi takes a nosedive. Rounding out the tier are Chomp and Shy Guy, two characters with phenomenal shot selection but plagued by movement issues, and my baby boy Boo, whom I'm prepared to never get buffed for the crimes he committed in Aces. Going from best lunge in Aces to worst lunge in Fever, it feels intentional that they're holding Boo down. I think a movement speed buff would be nice here if you're afraid of buffing anything else, as just like the rest of the characters in this tier, slide shots by the opponent really screw the character over when he attempts to score cross court. Either that or nerf slides and these characters become much more functional. And for our bottom three characters in F tier, we have the tragic tale of Kamek and the Peachette. Kamek got buffed but still relies on the opponent completely whiffing to score. If they slide, Kamek gets nothing off of it. Toadette and Peach, of which I'm surprised neither have received anything throughout the game's lifespan, are gonna need some major movement buffs. Both are slow as crap and can't play the game with how fast shots are. Then there's their own lack of power, and it's curtains for the pink duo. And there you have it, my patch 1.1 Mario Tennis Fever tier list. I'm sure new discoveries will be made as the meta naturally progresses, but I do think developer intervention will be needed to make the game feel better. In my humble opinion, slides are the base root of a majority of issues of the gameplay. Because slides are so strong, it necessitates the need for shots that go faster than an actual bullet. Because these shots are so fast, i.e. topspin, most characters can't keep up unless they're wide or do something outlandish like Wiggler outrunning every Speedy. It also feels like there's a real chokehold on scoring options thanks to this mechanic, as I alluded to earlier with how slides can eat up cross courts while making the opponent lose on the spot. Now with overhead smashes gone if there's no star on the ground, options are limited further. But hey, I guess we'll just have to see what's in store for the game's future. I'm rooting for it to succeed and grow as a competitive experience all the same. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!